Listen closely, because this is the kind of story that does not come twice. In the dusty town of Kaba, where the red earth swallowed your shoes and the market never slept, there lived a woman named Ada Okon. She was not tall. She was not loud. She wore a faded blue wrapper and walked barefoot even on market days. People said she was simple. They said God had given her a body, but forgotten to fill her head. Ada could not read. She could not write. When the moneylender, Mr. Bello, placed a paper before her, she pressed her thumb into the ink and left her mark like a child. People laughed. Some covered their mouths. Others did not bother. Her husband James had died 3 years before, leaving her with 2 children, a leaking roof, and a small provision shop that barely breathed. Every morning Ada tied her wrapper tight, loaded her tray of goods, and walked to the market. Every evening she returned with a little money and tired feet. The town watched her. The town pitied her. But not one of them knew what lived inside her mind. Quiet, still, and sharp as a blade, nobody had thought to check. The first sign came on a Tuesday. Kola, the bank agent who came to Kaba every week with his mobile PA's machine and his proud smile, arrived at Ada's shop as usual. She wanted to send money to her sister in the city. He punched in the number. He showed her the screen. "Confirm," he said. She looked at the screen for one moment. Then she said quietly, "That number is wrong. My sister's account ends in 774, not 747. Kola blinked. He looked again. He had transposed the digits. A small error. An honest mistake. But if the money had gone, it would have taken 3 weeks and much suffering to recover it. He corrected the number. The transaction went through. Kola walked away confused. How did a woman who could not read know what those digits looked like on a screen? He told his colleague Sola about it that evening. Sola laughed and said maybe Ada had guessed. Maybe it was luck. But it was not luck, and it was not a guess. And the ones who were paying attention would soon begin to understand. Word spreads fast in a town like Kaba. By Thursday, people were talking. Old Mama Rosa, who sold ground nuts near the motor park, came to Ada's shop with a troubled face. Her son in the city had been sending money for 2 months, but she had received nothing. The agent she used, a young man named Ben, always showed her a receipt. She had given the receipts to her nephew to read, and her nephew said everything looked fine. She showed the receipts to Ada. Ada held each one. Her lips moved slightly, as if she was tasting numbers. Then she laid them on the table in a line. "This one," she said, pointing to the second receipt. "The account number here is different from the others. All the others have the same number. This one changes here. See this part?" She pointed. "One time it is 0081. This time it is 0018. Mama Rosa could not see what she meant. But she took the receipts to the real bank the next morning. By afternoon, she had discovered that Ben had been sending the money to a different account, his own cousin's account, and pocketing the difference. The town shook. Ben ran. Mama Rosa got her money back. And suddenly, nobody was laughing at Ada. But not everyone was pleased. Mr. Bello, the moneylender, sat in his office and rolled his gold pen between his fingers. He had heard the stories. First Kola. Now Ben. He thought carefully, the way a man thinks when something threatens his comfort. Mr. Bello had been doing business in Kaba for 11 years. He gave loans to farmers, market women, and small traders. His papers were long and complicated, full of tiny writing and numbers that moved and changed like water. Most of his customers could not read. They signed, or they pressed their thumbs, and they trusted. And because they trusted, they often ended up paying back twice what they borrowed. He had a system. It worked beautifully. It had been working for 11 years. But now there was Ada. He had lent her money once, 2 years ago. She had paid it back early, which annoyed him, because early payment meant less interest. He had tried to argue that she still owed fees. She had said nothing, only looked at him with calm eyes, and left the exact amount on his desk. He had checked his records later and found she was right. He had said nothing about it. But he had remembered. Now he was beginning to worry. A woman who could not read but could see numbers, that was dangerous. Especially for a man whose power lived inside numbers people could not see. It was Ada's daughter, 12-year-old Nadia, who first understood her mother's gift fully. One evening, after helping close the shop, Nadia sat beside her mother and asked, "Mama, how do you know the numbers? You cannot read the letters, but the numbers, how?" Ada was quiet for a while. Outside, a generator hummed in the distance. A goat walked past the doorway and looked in, then walked on. "When I was young," Ada finally said, "before your grandfather lost all his money to a bad man, he used to read account numbers to me. Over and over. He said, 'Ada, one day men will try to take from you using paper. Learn the numbers. Numbers cannot lie if you hold them in your mind.'" Nadia leaned in closer. "So every number I hear," Ada continued, "I place it somewhere. Like stones in a line. I never forget a stone. I never move a stone unless I put it there myself." Nadia stared at her mother. She had always thought her mother was ordinary. Tired, quiet, ordinary. Now she saw something else. Something old and powerful, passed down like a clay pot that looks plain on the outside, but holds the coldest water in the hottest season. "How many numbers do you remember, Mama?" Ada smiled softly. "All of them." The trouble started on a Friday, 3 weeks later. The government announced a new loan scheme for small traders in rural areas. A representative came to Kaba, a man in a tight suit named Mr. Dabo. He set up a table under the big mango tree in the market and called people to come register. The loan was generous. Too generous, some people felt. But hunger makes people trust quickly. By noon, over 40 traders had pressed their thumbs on forms and given their account numbers out loud. Ada stood at the back of the crowd and listened. She did not go forward. She watched. She noticed that Mr. Dabo wrote down the account numbers himself, in his own hand, on a separate paper, not the form the trader signed. She noticed that when people spoke their numbers, he smiled and nodded slowly, as if storing something valuable. She also noticed that the real form, the one people pressed their thumbs on, had a different account number printed at the bottom. Not the trader's number. Another number entirely. Her chest went cold. She had seen this before. Not here. Not in Kaba. But her father had told her about it once, in a story that felt like a warning wrapped in words. Someone was about to steal from her people, and they were going to use paper to do it. Ada did not shout. She did not run. She went home, fetched her children, and sent Nadia to call 3 people: Mama Rosa, the town head secretary, a quiet young man named Toby, and Pastor Sam, who people trusted because he had a phone that worked even when others did not. They gathered in her shop that night with one lantern between them. Ada spoke slowly and clearly. She told them what she had seen. She described the form, not the letters on it, which she could not read, but the number at the bottom. She said it out loud like a song, the account number that was not anyone from Kaba's account number. Toby wrote it down. Ada also remembered every account number she had heard people give out loud that afternoon at the mango tree. 43 numbers. She recited them one by one, steady and calm, while Toby wrote and Nadia double-checked by asking people to confirm by phone. Every single number was correct. Pastor Sam sat back in his plastic chair and looked at Ada the way you look at the sky when it does something you have never seen before. "Sister," he said softly, "God gave you a different kind of book." Ada only nodded and asked Toby to call the financial crimes office in the state capital. Mr. Dabo did not know it yet, but his Friday scheme was already unraveling. By Saturday morning, 3 officials from the financial crimes office had arrived in Kaba in an unmarked car. Toby had sent them the account number, the names, and the full list of traders and their correct account numbers, all of it written down from Ada's memory. Mr. Dabo was still at his hotel, eating a full breakfast, when they knocked on his door. The account number at the bottom of the fake forms, it turned out, belonged to a network that had cheated traders in for other towns that same month. 47 people across the state had already lost money. In Kaba, because of Ada, not one person lost a single coin. The story reached the state newspaper. A young journalist named Clara drove to Kaba to find the woman who had stopped the fraud. She found Ada in her shop, arranging small bags of rice. "They say you memorized over 40 account numbers," Clara said, her recorder in her hand. 43, Ada said, without looking up. Clara stared. "Huh, Ada placed the last bag of rice on the shelf and turned around. She looked at Clara the way a river looks. Quiet on top, deep underneath. Nobody ever taught me to read, she said. So I learned to remember. Mr. Bello the moneylender heard the news on his transistor radio. He sat very still for a long time. Then he opened his drawer and pulled out a thick notebook. Inside were years of transactions. Numbers that had been moved, adjusted, rounded up in his favor. Fees that had been added quietly, like salt added when nobody was looking. He thought about all the customers who could not read. He thought about Ada. He thought about whether she had ever borrowed from him again. Whether she had ever stood near his table and listened. Whether she had ever, in passing, heard him recite numbers to his assistant. He thought too hard and too long. He closed his office early, drove to the homes of 11 of his older customers, and quietly returned money he said was overbilled by error. People were confused, grateful, but confused. Only Ada, when she heard, was not confused at all. She folded her wrapper tighter and went to the market as usual. Old Mama Rosa found her there and said, "Mr. Bello is giving back money. What happened?" Ada said nothing for a moment. Then she said, "A man who knows he has been seen will clean his own house before you bring a broom." Mama Rosa laughed so hard she nearly dropped her groundnuts. And so, listen to how this story ends, or rather, how it continues. Ada did not become rich from what she did. She did not become famous in the way of people who want fame. She still wore her faded wrapper. Her roof still leaked a little when the rains were heavy. But things changed. The way things change when the ground shifts beneath a town, even though nobody sees the movement. The bank sent a young woman to Kaba to open a proper branch, the first one the town had ever had. They asked Ada to help them explain mobile banking to traders who were afraid of the machines. Every Tuesday she sat under the mango tree and listened to people's account numbers, helped them confirm transactions, and made sure no digit was in the wrong place. She could not write the numbers down herself. She did not need to. Nadia was now in secondary school on a scholarship that Pastor Sam had helped her apply for. She was learning to read and write in 3 languages. She came home every weekend and sat with her mother, and they exchanged knowledge, Nadia giving Ada words, Ada giving Nadia memory. The town that had laughed at Ada Okon no longer laughed. They did something harder. They thought about what they had almost missed, the wisdom sitting barefoot in their market, unnoticed, steady, and watching. Some gifts you see, do not come wrapped the way we expect, but they are gifts.
If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more magical folktales that stir your heart and spark your imagination, make sure to subscribe to Whispered Folktales. Hit the like button to show your love, and share this story with your friends so we can keep the magic alive. Every subscription and share helps us bring more legends, mysteries, and timeless tales straight to you.